Alright guys, as you can tell by the title and the fact the motor's in the car, that's what we're doing today. Originally when I started the video, I thought I'd just put motor trans in, we carry on to something else. It ended up being a little more involved, which I should have known because I've done this before. But, you know, there's not a lot of video out there I've seen about anyone putting a big block in a Tri-5 Chevy. So I'm going to kind of show the way I've done it, or doing it I should say. Whether it's right or wrong I couldn't tell you, but it's going to work. And so in this video, we end up getting the motor and trans in, motor mounts in, just a few things to make the headers fit, all the kind of tedious things. Putting a big block in a Tri-5 and a tunnel ramp to boot. There's firewall clearance, so issues. So the headers are not, or the valve covers aren't on. That one won't fit at all. We got steering issues because of rear steer. We're gonna have some exhaust issues. And being a tunnel ramp, we're going to have carburetor into firewall issues. So I'm going to kind of tackle one or two of those in a few smaller videos after this, kind of back to back. So it'll be maybe a 2 or 3 part series of putting a big block in a Tri-5 Chevy. I won't be skipping over as many things. So mostly for myself. Because I was on some forums and stuff and everybody kind of did it differently. And I remember when I did it on the 55, it was a bit of a gong show. And I forgot what I learned. And I'm going to force myself, I actually went back and watched some of my old videos to figure it all out. Because we also have some brake issues, we're going to have a master cylinder. Like, there's all sorts of stuff you got to kind of take into account. And hopefully some of you guys enjoy. So, let's get right to it. Subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, grab yourself a drink. Let's get after it. Alright, well, new video. Hopefully the sound's working okay. The dog got in there and gnawed at it a little bit on the old camera case. So, I know where I left it last. We were going to do some more welding and kind of get the car back together and all that. Well, total change of heart. I picked up the transmission today. 700 R4. See how long this lasts. And so I knew I was going to get that today. So before work, I came out real early. And I just kind of fogged this thing orange. So I didn't film it. It's actually so cold in here. It was still kind of tacky. So I had the heater blasting against it. While I was screwing around with that, I noticed the oil pan's just sitting on there. It didn't have a gasket. So I picked up a new gasket on the way home from work. My fear, because this thing does have this kind of fancy big sump oil pan, so I don't know if it's further ahead, but with the rear steer, oil pans are an issue. So, my plan tonight, I gotta get this thing on the crane, lift it up, hopefully change the oil pan gasket pretty easily. I might just try and set the motor and trans in, see what it's gonna look like. It was a real pain to paint this thing on this kind of roll-around cart versus an actual engine stand. But the engine stand has the junk Dodge motor, and I actually pushed it outside, and now it's frozen on the concrete driveway. So what are you going to do? Anyways, so I have the mounts. So these mounts will go on where that leg is right there. And then that will fit over the pedestal, which is what's going to go in the car. Now these things here are recommended. You just kind of line them up with these rivets, and then either you drill holes in or you weld them. So I think what I'm going to do on this one, because who knows where the motor is actually going to go, being a big block. A lot of guys end up kind of knocking the firewall, which I am not opposed to doing on this car. On my 55 Chevy, I was obsessed with not destroying the firewall, and it caused so much headaches. It just snowballed, so I'm not doing that. I'm lighting this firewall up if I have to. So, I'm going to get this thing up, put the pan gasket on while I'm at it. I've gone through it, I double checked all the fasteners, I took the ring gear off, and I Loctited all those bolts, so that's all good. Everything that could kind of be a pain, I've dealt with. So we're going to get that, we'll put the motor and trans on, we're going to actually put the motor mounts on, we're going to hang the pedestals on the motor mounts that all be hanging. Then we slide it in. We'll have it all, so we know where it's going to be. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of measuring. It's where it's going to be happy. You know, up against the firewall, around the steering, all those sort of things. We'll put a floor jacket on the transmission to hold it up. Then we'll give her a few buzzes, and hopefully that'll be good. Hopefully. I am worried about that oil pan. I may be getting another one and chopping it up and all that screwing around. I also want to put the headers on and make sure it fits around the steering box. There's going to be a lot of test fitting on this. Ideally, I'll have the headers on with the motor mounts. We'll slide her in place, put it at like a 3-degree angle down, tack it in place. tack in the cross member or leave a floor jack under it for tonight, and it'll just be where it's going to be. I hope I'm not lucky, but I'm not too sure. It went real easy on the 55, so we'll see. That's what we're going to get to. So I'll get this kind of pulled out and kind of everything changed up, and we'll go from there. Doesn't this look so much better, all Chevy orange? God, that's a good looking motor. Alright, so let's fast forward just a little bit. We've got the oil pan on, the gasket, that's all back together. I did have to take the ring gear off and put it back on, retorqued it. I got the headers on. Now, this one, I'm kind of stuck with it being on. The issue, I run into with a tunnel ram, the back of the chain, so I have a top, whatever, plate to kind of crank it up and down and all that. The chain's not long enough to fit over the hats. You have to take the bug catcher, the carburetors, all that off, and maybe even the intake. I'm not really too sure, which is a lot of work. I'd rather not do. If you put the bolt in the back of the head, it's a pain because it's going to be right up against the firewall. So I've done it for you. Actually, I'm slicing the bolt, taking it out. That's a pain. So I went on the side. I put the header on. We'll see if that works. This side, I put the header on. This is the problematic side. Now again, the steering box should fit right there. So hopefully that cylinder will be enough. It'll be cleared and we'll be good. So that's that. I did put on the motor mounts. So that's good. I will hang those ones on when it slides in. So the next step, I got to clean up a little bit, wrestle this around, hook it up to the transmission, see if I can maybe get this. It's a little tilty, so I have to take a link or two out of different, the chain to kind of make it flat. And yeah, we'll get the transmission on. Once the transmission on, then we'll level it out. We'll see how it goes. So next time you see it, it'll be one unit and ready to slide in. It should slide in the car easy. Whether it clears, that's to be determined. But it should fit nice. Well, it should go in nice. Fit terribly. Does this just not look fantastic? Man, I'm pretty stoked. Okay, so I think I'm going to set the laps up, and we're going to try and set this thing in. I'll put a blanket or something there, or maybe add a little bit more chain. I'm not too sure. I don't want it gacking that too hard. Real quick, I'm just going to clean up all around here, wherever the like that. So I'll just kind of mark it, because I can go a fair bit of screwing around. And yeah, see, the motor's gonna be happy. Hopefully there's nothing really in the way. I got this old wire which I'll just snip off. I'm not gonna use it. Steering is in. I'm hoping the header will drop right in nice. I don't have any issues. Give her a few tack welds, and yeah. Wish me luck, guys. Well, I've run into a gang of problems. So, I took that one header off so I can get back there. I'm going to do some Googling. I think this part of the firewall is going to be smashed in. The scoop was jamming up against the top of the cowl. See, in my 55 with the big block in, I put the motor ahead a little, which made fitment not too bad. I did have to chop up the oil pan, and the headers were a nightmare. So this one I wanted to push back, which I'm going to run into a firewall issue. The motor mounts still have like a ways to go back, like we're talking a couple inches. The motor is cocked back, so once it levels out, that'll help. The steering is a country mile out, so we'll have to see if I'm going to chop this pan up, or maybe I can slide it back enough with enough firewall, we'll call it massaging, to go from there. But yeah, well, it's definitely going to be a pain, but whatever. This side, the header, we're actually close to the motor mount, so it has to go further back, which would be good, and there's actually lots of clearance there, which is surprising. So these headers will work. Win. But the rest of it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. But I'm going to sleep on this and think about how much cutting I want to do. Yeah. So I don't mind bashing the firewall, chopping the top of it out. Not the end of the world, but a bit of work. Motor looks cool in there though. So I'll leave it there for tonight. I'm going to think about this overnight. Do a little internet research, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. See if Merle will come over, because a second person to help wrestle this around would make my life 1,000 times easier. Oh, it's the next day. So last night I went in and tailed to my legs. This wasn't going to work out quite as well as I was hoping. So, you know, and I was optimistic, but having put the big block in my 55 Chevy, I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass. And, yeah, it didn't go very well. So I think what I'm going to do, because there's going to be a lot of little things that need to be done. Tonight, we're going to try and get this motor set up on the motor mounts, and at least the transmission cross member is kind of welded in to hold it where the motor is going to be, at all costs. Now that may involve taking valve covers off, taking a carburetor off, maybe even taking the intake off, to get the block where we want it, as kind of step one. Now we know that oil pan's going to hit the steering. We know the valve cover is going to hit the firewall. We know the scoop and possibly the carburetor is going to hit the cowl. We don't know what the exhaust is going to do yet. There's all these little issues. And those are all things that do have to be addressed when you put a big block in a Tri-5 Chevy. And I was Googling a bunch, and I kind of came to the realization there's not a lot of stuff showing how to do it. A lot of people say, oh, I've done this, I've done that, whatever it may be. So I think I'm going to get the motor and trans in, and then I'll do a few kind of small videos addressing how to actually get in there properly, or how I'm going to do it. So are you going to bash the firewall, or are you going to cut it? What are you going to do with the steering? Are we going to chop this oil pan up? In my 55, I've chopped the oil pan. This is a nice pan, so I might just get another one to chop up. Or, I mean, they do sell one, but that's big dollars. Valve covers. Valve covers are a catch-22. I don't have another set, but the standard height ones will actually fit okay. It's these tall ones that always make it a pain. I don't really need these tall ones on this setup because it just has factory valve train, but let's be honest, factory valve covers are lame. These look cool. So that's what I think we're going to do. I'm going to clean up a little bit. Then we're going to see if we can get this thing set. Ultimately, we're not too far out to lunch because this is the mount. And I mean, that's kind of where it wants to be. So we're about half an inch or so out. The other thing we can do, which I did do on the 55, you can trim one way or the other and move the motor any which way. So if you move it ahead, you run into steering issues. You move it back, you run into firewall issues. But you can just chop it and put spacers or washers or whatever it is. Once we get it kind of close. So that, I think what we're going to do. Get her in, and then we'll do maybe a firewall video, some sort of scoop, you know, kind of carburetor video, a steering video, exhaust video. Who knows? Who knows what's going to work out and who knows what's not. But that's what we're doing. I'll get cleaned up and I'll be right back. I gotta say, this is the classic take a day or take a minute, go have a Coke type thing, come back to it, and things just start making so much more sense. I was so frustrated last night with this thing. So I lifted the transmission up. We're doing pretty good. I managed to get the motor. This motor mounts perfect. We're good. We're done. I trimmed the ear off one side so you can see it's got a space there. So I can just put that piece of pipe in the front. We're good. We're happy. I'm happy. That's lined up where it's going to be. There's... it's close. Now on the other side, the problem we're running into... I've got a pair of vice grips on it. You can see it. I can fit my... we got that gap there. So the motor wants to come down and over just a little bit. That, whatever that is, 1/4 of an inch. Now we're rocked up against this header tube right here. So, bit of a job, but I'm going to just mark the header, the back tube, and then we're going to end up hitting right here just a little bit. Mark that. I'll lift the motor up. I'll bash the header in 2 spots. Then the motor can come down and come over, because that's why we can't go over anymore, because we're rocked up against the steering box. So once we do that, then the motor can be in. I can put a couple of tack welds on the motor mounts. And the nice thing about this kit is you end up butting it up against 2 factory rivets. So the fact that it's at 2 factory rivets, and then obviously if it's flush on the top, it's squared. We're good. There's not a whole lot of measuring to do there. The motor looks square in the car, so we're fine. So once we get that, I've got the transmission eyeballed. I'll get under there and with a ratchet strap, pull it one way or the other, and leave a floor jack under. I said maybe just weld that brace in real quick, and then the motor will be square, and then we just can adjust up and down and kind of go from there, which isn't really the end of the world. I got to buy a transmission mount actually for it, so that may have to wait till the next video. But overall, we're doing fine. The motor actually fits, and the distributor, I mean, it's tight, but I can fit my finger behind it, so we can twist it. We'll be good there. That will then leave, hopefully, room here for the wiper motor if the carburetor comes up and the float bowl is all we're worried about. So that's, it's coming around. I doubt we're going to be able to fit valve covers, the tall deck ones. So this area here will have to be massaged. Another thing I was thinking I might just probably sand the head. Like it'll have this boss at the back of the head, which I don't know if I ever use or not. But while we're in there, so get it tacked in. And then tomorrow, we can, again, kind of how we're going to mark the headers, we'll mark the firewall, pull the motor up and out just a little bit of gentle massaging, put it back in, and that'll be set. Valve covers go on, we're golden. We have lots of room under here. Actually, on the 55, I put my thumb under it, and that's it. And I think we'll probably be about the same once the motor kind of falls into place there. Yeah, it's actually coming together pretty good. You know, the scoop, so the hood would be about in line with the carburetor, so the scoop would be slightly higher. It was almost kissing that, so that's where we'll be. So we'll stick it a little bit, it'll look alright. If we really want to go for the scoop look, which I'm thinking I might go do anyways, I don't know where the carburetor's going to be, but if we put some 1-inch blocks on there, we'll be golden. The other thing this tunnel rams are terrible for, vacuum ports. No vacuum ports. So that's what I did on the 55. I put a spacer with a vacuum port in it. So then we'll have the we have the distributor run off the carburetor, but then you know the below the carburetor vacuum can be off 2 spacer plates, which if we do 1 inch, it'll put the scoop up 1 inch higher, which will just look cooler. So I feel much better today. We're hammering stuff out. The header here will absolutely fit with no issues, other than we're going to have a steering issue. But you know what? We'll deal with that down the road. The motor has to go where the motor is going to go. There's no other place it can be. And yeah. So, I'm going to get the transmission situated. I'm going to lift the motor up, bash that header. We'll put her back together. And I think that's where we're going to end it for this video. I gave my little explanation, and yeah. Hopefully you guys like this. And hopefully there's people out there that are looking for Tri-5 stuff. Like I've done this a couple of times now, putting a big block in. There's some forums and stuff like that. But Tri-5 is an old man car. And the old men, they're not making YouTube videos. They're clickety-clacked on the forums. I'm not on those. Well, I tell you, from low lows yesterday to decently highs today, man. So, I got the motor in. I had to pull the motor halfway out. I didn't film it because I was frustrated. Because I did have to dimple in there. You can see that. And honestly, well, it'll self-clearance, I guess. But she's tight. I did have to smash the header tubes a little bit, and I actually, after I drive down the 55, I actually ground down the case. I should have started with that, because then when I did that, I over smashed. But you know what? It has probably a 1/4 inch of clearance, which is nice when the motor does rock just a little bit. We have the motor mounts where we're going to be just some ugly tacks in there. We're good. We have to space them, obviously, but we're golden. Motor, can you see that? 0.07 degrees. That's pretty good. So what I did is I put it on this flat plate, which, I mean, I don't know, as flat as it's going to be. I zeroed it out and then put it on that. I don't know. We're close-ish. This side, same thing. We're mounted. We need some spacers. I put the header on. Lots of clearance on this side. While it was out, I did smash over here a little bit, which did free up some room. Now, here's... I don't want to jinx it. So we got the header on. Now, it's going to be tight. It's going to have to take a hard backwards. If I can get under here. To clear the steering. Where are we? So it'll have to take a hard back, but I have the steering hooked up. Now it's, I mean, it's close. So I definitely am going to have to modify that oil pan, because as you go side to side, it will kind of do its thing front and back. Now I don't know it's centered, if center is all the way back or all the way forward, one or the other, because it has like a slight arc to it. Now if it arcs forward, we're good. It's probably going to arc backwards and we're hosed. But, you know what? That's not bad. We can take an inch out of that, no problem, and not affect anything. And the oil pan, that's easy to take off these things, because you'll see, look how very little the oil pan is actually in front of the, on top of the cross member. We got lots of room here. I'm happy with it. I eyeballed the degrees down. It looks pretty close. I mean, again, we'll go up and down. We'll put the transmission cross member in. Distributors in. Oh, huge relief. Huge for me. We'll see if there's one valve cover. This will be the tight side. Yeah. So you'll see. That's where we're gonna have to smashy. This is where the everyone says a factory one will fit. So we can have that ugly mess. But we need the tall ones. So I'll have to get in there and give her a little heat and a little smash, no big deal. The other side, I don't know if it'll fit. I think it should. Oh, yeah. It will need a little bit there, but really, so that's good. That's where I'm leaving it. Huge win. The next video, we're gonna take care of the firewall. We'll make sure the valve covers fit. We'll fit on the carburetor and scoop, because that's gonna be important. And we'll set the angle to the transmission, because we want to make sure that's all good. And I think I'm gonna buy some spacers. Might as well do that right now. Get the motor as high as possible, right? Comment below, but I mean, motor sticking out of hood or non-existent hood as much as possible is for sure the way to go. Well, thanks for sticking along for the ride. We'll have at least one, if not two more videos of fitting a big block into a Tri-5 Chevy. Oh, I'm so happy. Alright guys, again, thanks for watching. Comment below, like the video, share with your friends. If you haven't already subscribed, do that for me. And tell me I'm an idiot, but this looks good.